Russell Westbrook ready to give out some parking tickets, Caron, or maybe stop some traffic.
Shout out to Light Bright.
Hey, whoa, over here, get out the way.
Marc Gasol making his debut for the Toronto Raptors against the New York Knicks. He's going to come off the bench for the first time since 2008, but playing for a new team.
Very happy to be here.
The Spurs and the Jazz in action as we speak. Check out the ball movement. 1 pass, 2 pass, 3 pass, 4. Bottoms.
Splash in the corner door.
25 assists in counting for the Utah Jazz.
Winning basketball right there.
Welcome to Game Time Live, 3D, Tough Juice. These guys on my left, I'm Chris Miles. Let's get some knuckles around.
Boom.
Okay, I like that.
9 games with the crew. Welcome to Saturday Night Live, NBA style. A lot of games seem to be exciting tonight. Marc Gasol also making his debut, so we're excited to see that for the Raptors.
Very excited, Chris and Tough Juice. You know this. Now with the All-Star break literally right around the corner and all these new faces going to playoff teams, Tough Juice, you've been there before. How long will it take for some of these guys to learn the system, get that chemistry together? Because some guys are going to teams where they're trying to go deep in the playoffs. It's not about just making the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's like 10 to 15 games where you get accustomed to being accustomed. Like new situation, new environment, playing off other guys' tendencies. And like, look at a guy like Marc Gasol. He knows, you know, he's a guy that knows the guy's habits. So now playing in the system, they're going to have to adjust to him as much as he has to adjust to them. Half-court guy, one of the best passing bigs in the game. So look for him to get a lot of action in the half court.
All right, let's hear from Gasol right now. Knicks and Raptors play at 7:30, and again, Gasol debuting. Let's hear from him.
Mark, your initial reaction when you were traded?
Well, obviously after, 11 years as a player and almost, I got there as a teenager. We kind of expected that something could happen, and then it seemed like nothing was going to happen. So, once it happened and we knew our destination, we got real excited, because it gives you a chance to compete at the highest level. And, once Masai called and talked to some of the guys in there, and everyone said about this, the same about making a run to the title. And, that gets, your juices going, and it makes you real excited.
What are those days like when you think you're going to get traded and you think you're not going to get traded? Like, walk us through what's going through your mind.
I posted something in social media that was pretty accurate. Maybe not the quality of the singing, but that's the kind of the feeling that you get. You don't know. And it's out of your control. And everyone is talking about it, and everybody is asking you, and you just don't know. But as far as the routine goes, the habit is the same. Like I stayed, with my family and my kids, and that's a pretty good distraction to have.
Yeah, sure.
Is there 11?
A look at your top teams in the East, and they all made moves, or most of them. The Milwaukee Bucks, they added Nikola Mirotic. The Raptors added Marc Gasol, and the 76ers added Tobias Harris. So when you look at Gasol coming to the Raptors, do you think they saw that, Tobias Harris getting traded? We have to make a deal as well to try to keep up with this arms race.
I'll take it a step further for you, Chris. It's more so of showing Kawhi Leonard that I'm willing to do whatever. Yes, Boston may not have made no moves. We know Danny, that speaks for what Danny's staying patient. You see him in Milwaukee, Bud Ball, they're shooting more threes, that makes sense. But bigger picture for Toronto, for me, Tough Juice, Masai Ujiri's doing every little thing possible to say, Kawhi, we're going after it this year, and if you sign and stay here for the next 4 or 5 years, there's another big guy to play with you with a defensive mindset, because I know you're a defensive-minded guy. And also offensively, we know we can go through you now to go deep into the playoffs.
3D, I think that's an excellent, observation of looking at the Toronto Raptors. But also, I look at the Team West, and I look at the Utah Jazz and the moves that they didn't make because the development of the guys that was on the roster. So now I look at the Raptors, and I think that they had to make moves because the development of a guy like Siakam.
Yes.
He's a really good player, borderline all-star this season. So now with the development of him, it's like, okay, we're ready now. All we need is one other thing that could put us in the half-court situation, a guy we could play through, and we can get over the hump.
Certainly, the Clippers and the Celtics, they'll take the court tonight in Boston at 8. That's another good one. Clippers were very active at the trade deadline, moving their leading scorer and their starting shooting guard. The Celtics, well, they didn't make any deals this week. With that, let's welcome in Boston Globe national NBA writer Gary Washburn. Gary, with the two teams on top of the East making moves, why did the Celtics not make any deals?
I think they felt very comfortable with the current roster. And guys who had struggled early in the season, Jaylen Brown, Gordon Hayward, are starting to play better. And they feel like they had won before the Laker game 10 of 11, so it's now 10 of 12. They've been on a pretty good run, and they feel like, you know what, with this team that we have the talent, we have the depth, we can make a run as we are. We don't need to shake things up. And some of their best players who might be imprinting free agents, a Terry Rozier, Marcus Morris, are contributors. So you don't want to move those guys. So their options were rather limited, and then they also just felt like their depth was good enough to make a prolonged run.
Well, Danny Ainge also said that the Kyrie Irving situation is like an engagement until the teams are officially married on July 1st. But it sounds like, well, that ring, no, it sounds like Kyrie is still trying to play the field a bit. How much does this team's success the rest of the season and the playoffs factor into Kyrie's decision to stay in Boston in the summer?
I think it's very important this team make a deep playoff run to convince Kyrie not to flirt with other teams. But I still wouldn't be surprised if he did, visit New York and talk with the Knicks and the Nets, and maybe visit Los Angeles if they're interested, and maybe other teams with the salary cap space for a max deal. I think he wants to keep his options open, but I think he still enjoys Boston. I don't think he's unhappy in Boston. I think last week, the interview in New York, I think he was unhappy that his name was kind of dragged into the Anthony Davis situation, and he kind of has kept quiet about his situation since October. So I think that irked him more than just being unhappy in Boston or disappointed that they've had kind of a bumpy road. I think he was just upset at his name being dragged in that situation in the first place.
Keeping with the theme of the Celtics and relationships, look, Kyrie and Gordon Hayward seem like they're pretty tight, and Hayward has not scored over 10 points in back-to-back games since mid-January. We know about his gruesome injury. Is his lack of production hurting his team's chemistry and also Kyrie's situation?
I don't think it's hurting Kyrie's situation. I think Brad Stevens has been extremely patient with Hayward and will continue to be. And I think there's signs that he's coming back. It's just it's a mental thing. I mean, if you play basketball for 25 years every day in your life, and then suddenly you can't play for a year, and then you're asked to jump on a court with the world's best players, the world's best athletes, that's hard. And I think that this transition for Hayward has been difficult, but I think he's making strides. And I think this team truly believes that the Hayward in April and May will be much better and much more confident, I would say, than the one who's in February. And so they're seeing signs. I don't think it's doing anything with the team chemistry. It has affected playing time, but you've got to let him play. You can't bench him. He's not going to get better on the bench looking at the game. Like, he's got to experience these things. He's got to go through it, and he's got to get better.
Certainly, team chemistry, never an easy thing to figure out. Gary Washburn, national NBA writer for the Boston Globe, thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Look, the Celtics offensively, they've been doing well as you see them. Their offensive rating going up as the season progresses, and it seems like they have a rhythm right now. Caron, when you look at this lineup and the fact that they didn't make any deals at the trade deadline, how much you think this chemistry in their offense as a part of that?
Well, I think they're starting to, come together. And I think most of the reason why they're coming together because of the play of Kyrie Irving. And I think guys are starting to fall in order from a vertical standpoint, understanding the pecking order, understanding that he's going to be the guy that leads us there, trying to insert Gordon Hayward as much as possible. And I think the young guys are buying into that. So, moving forward, they have to continue to do that, and I think it's going to be a work in progress. But also, I think Gordon Hayward coming around, getting his legs up under him. I saw a hard foul by JaVale McGee when he got hit. I was just like, okay, he's able to take the contact in those situations, so that's a welcoming sign for the Boston Celtics.
3D, are they going to regret not making a deal at the trade deadline if you look at the top of the Eastern Conference, and it seems like a lot of these other teams got better as they look to make this postseason push? Well,
knowing Danny, the way he's been patient the last couple of years, knowing he has so many assets. So not making a move was really making a move because Gordon Hayward and Kyrie were hurt. So now they got hurt beginning of the year, beginning of the playoffs. So this young team, to Gary Washburn's point, grew and learned on the fly. And now you're adding 2 all-stars, which Kyrie, to his point, is getting his rhythm. Gordon still hadn't got his total rhythm back. So now that's basically adding 2 new players to a young team that really gained so much experience getting all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals. So why bring in somebody totally brand new to try to insert them and learn the chemistry and the flow and where the bodies are buried, as we like to say. And now as Gordon Hayward gets 100%, that's still another level and still another talent that we still haven't tapped into yet. And I think that's why Danny stayed so patient.
One of the things that still jump out at me when you're talking about Danny Ainge and talking about the marriage between him and Kyrie and that being an engagement situation, what we need to pay close attention to is how you treated your last bride. Isaiah Thomas, runaway bride situation. And I think that it's going to be a long process, but that's something that a lot of people are thinking about, just that connection and that experience, and that plays into the free agency going forward.
Anthony Davis's dad said as much, so certainly a lot to see there as far as the Celtics and how they're going to handle this Kyrie Irving situation. ESPN is reporting that three-point specialist Wayne Ellington has cleared waivers and will officially sign with the Pistons. Ellington was brought out by the Suns earlier this week. Last season, he hit a career-high 227 three-pointers for the Miami Heat.
Make it wait.